Hello, poor people. How are you today? In the next 2 minutes, I'm going to quickly explain how to navigate different sectors at any level. You see, there's a persuaded belief treating every single person the same way, irrespective of their level, somehow makes you a paragon of civilization. It is a false ideology, and you will pay for it in a way you're not prepared for. If you treat bourgeoisies, peasants, in a very respectful way, you honor them, chances are excellent they are not receptive enough to interpret that honor accurately. Therefore, you would reap an abundance of disrespect, entitlement, and the list goes on. That's why the Bible says perfectly, you do not give precious things to swines, else they will trample on it. I recall a gateman, former gateman, whom I used to bestow some benefits on. So this particular week, I can't recall what happened, but I lost a lot of money. Some deal went wrong. Every single thing tanked. And lost in thoughts, someone flags down my car. Hello, sir. Good afternoon. Yes, Mark. How's it going? Well, sir, you forgot to give me XYZ. What do you mean forgot? I can't recall contracting with you whereby this is mandatory. I decided to give it to you. There's nothing for you today. And you could see the disgust in his face from the way he stared me down to the laziness in opening up the gates. So that's just one example of this scenario. But the principle is consistent. Poor people are not receptive to that level of honor. So it's most likely when you honor poor people, they would receive it in a wrong way. Let me explain to you. Poverty is not an insult, it's a description that comes as a consequence with your level of transformation. So, poverty is not a problem of the pocket, it's a problem of the mind. How you think determines how you act. How you act is the result you get. The result determines the ultimate quality of your life. So the problem is not to go about changing things or thinking of the next business idea. The problem is to change how you think, which will translate into action, then results affecting the ultimate quality of your life. So the poor person, his mind is not transformed enough to receive a dimension of honor. What is honor? The acknowledgement of a person's sacrifice in a given endeavor. The problem with most people is they conflate being polite from honor. Being polite is everybody's entitlement until proven otherwise. So you meet someone or something goes wrong. Sorry, thank you, excuse me. That's being polite. But to relate with a subordinate or someone way beneath you on the same level or treat them as an equal, it's a blunder. There are a lot of problems associated with that mindset. It leads to disrespect, entitlement. In fact, from a professional standpoint, once you see a leader or your superior as an equal, he loses your loyalty. In fact, it's only a matter of time before there's an office coup because your position as a leader is secure to the degree which nobody thinks they can do the job, think they can do the job. Nobody believes their effort is equivalent to yours. How many people eyes Elon Musk's position? Exactly. Eyeing his wealth is different from his position. Nobody wants to do what he does. So your position as a leader is secured to the degree people think it's privy to just you. So that's one aspect. On the flip side, if you treat a superior in a condescending manner, in fact, this is not something I need to explain. It's self-explanatory. You all know the outcome. But then if you extrapolate it to an investor venture capitalist relationship, on the lower echelon of society, the managers, the leaders, the head of departments, you want to relate with them with a good attitude in a manner that does not seem threatening to their position. But at the top echelon, speaking to shareholders, top CEO, executives, they want you to show ambition. You want to be confident. You want to relate with them as humans. Now, if you flip the demeanor rather, within these personalities, it's most likely you won't derive the outcome. Because showing confidence and displaying talent in the presence of the head of department or a manager is most likely going to kick you off the team because your talent is a threat to their position. They're smart enough to understand if this person is brought before the CEO or the leader of this company, I will lose my job. Or even worse, he's elevated above me, which means I work for him. It's not a reality most would enjoy. I want you to understand something that these managers, head of departments, their ego and insecurity is at its all-time high. So the thoughts of you being their superior is even worse than losing their jobs. But on the flip side, if you approach an executive with a good attitude, servile, humble, lack of ambition, you just seem like everybody else. You seem like all the psychophants he has. He has a bunch of them. You don't want to join that queue. So understand this. Your interactions with people are relative. And one of the reasons most individuals like to play the static game is they somehow believe erring in the opposite direction is a betrayal to their moral rectitude. You see, I used to think diluting my intellect to converse with someone of a lesser mind or to converse with a lesser mind somehow means I'm conforming. Make reference to my teaching. Compromise is not conformity. But approaching people from that heightened altitude is a terrible mistake. You're never going to connect and you're never going to bond. There are things you can't get from that individual. And as unfortunate as it sounds, the peasants are useful in some end. There are people you use to do something, they are useful in general. I don't want to go into specifics, but they are useful. But if you backtrack, you would quickly identify that all of this thing comes from insecurity. You're not secure in yourself enough to believe if you do something you think is out of character with your personality, it's somehow you conforming or you're not the person you say you are. And unfortunately, this mindset stems from manifestation, trying to act like the person you want to become. Is unfortunately because you have to progress from becoming to identifying. You're not rich on some days. You're not abundant on some days. You're abundant irregardless of the inconsistent action with that label. So, say for instance, you've achieved your $1 million goal. It's in your bank account. If I ask you for $100 and you refuse, does that cancel out your $1 million? Does that cancel out your income? Does the bank suddenly debit you, or your wealth vanishes into thin air just because you decline to help someone? Exactly. So going out of your way to fulfill demands you know truly is not in your best interest to reinforce a belief is asinine. It's fucking stupid. In fact, it's signaling to your brain you're trying to be something, and that thing would always be elusive. Embody it, become it, deliberately act in ways that are inconsistent with that belief, and truly believe you are the person. Let's say your goal is to grow taller or to get bigger. Because of your physique, you have limited your dating options. So, foolishly, to reinforce your manifestation, you approach girls whom you truly believe are way out of your league. It's a very foolish thing to do because if you were truly that person, you don't need to prove a point. You don't need to approach those ladies to prove that you are something because you are already it. To learn how to relate with people at different levels. Of course, as I stated in the previous video, conformity or compromise is not conformity. Taking this to an extreme would be your unbecoming. Anything taken to an extreme becomes hazardous. Anything taken to an extreme becomes hazardous. Sugar sweetens your tea, but it also engenders diabetes. So be very careful so that you don't end up a mirror reflecting whoever is before you. And as always, my friends, it's a pleasure speaking to you. I'll see you in the next one.